Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and as always, I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Hey.
So Dave.
What's up, Lou?
It's a new year. It's January. So what does that mean for us on the podcast?
It means Animation Month.
And what exactly is Animation Month? This is the second time we're doing this.
We cover all things Halloween in the animated realm.
Exactly. Animated Halloween specials, episodes from shows. As long as it's animated and pertains to Halloween, that's basically the rules. That's the only rules we gave ourselves when it comes to Animation Month. So this episode and our next episode in the month of January will incorporate those elements. All animation, all cartoons, both for adult and for children. We kind of, family friendly and not so family friendly. And today's I wouldn't call a family friendly.
I wouldn't say it's not family friendly. It was on Fox. I mean, it was on at like 8 at night.
But definitely geared more towards adults, I would say, what we're going to be covering today. And that's King of the Hill. Now, Dave, usually I ask you what you think about the show, but in this episode, I'll start. Now,
please do.
Now, I'm one of those people that got into King of the Hill much later. Like, when it first came out, I was not into it. But then I think in reruns would, catch an episode here and there, and I just kind of, fell in love with the show. Now, it's Mike Judge who created Beavis and Butthead, and what's funny about it is King of the Hill is the polar opposite of Beavis and Butthead, where Beavis and Butthead are kind of obnoxious and loud and annoying, and I love Beavis and Butthead. We have talked about them before on the show. King of the Hill is more reserved and quiet. Would you agree?
So, it's funny that you bring this up. So, and also, please correct me. Is it Mike Judge or is it Mike Judd?
It might be Mike Judd. I'm probably, you know me, I butcher everyone's name. So
that's okay. So, I was explaining this to my girlfriend Sheila before, and this is kind of my interpretation of Mike Judge's animated worlds. And honestly, Beavis and Butthead, Daria, and King of the Hill are so mundane and atmosphere that it makes it atmospheric. I don't know if that makes sense. The boringness of the world make it atmospheric. So there's this general malaise, I feel, with all the characters, and they are unaware that they are actually the ones running the world that they live in. That's how I described all of Mike Judge's animated worlds. To me, that's just how, I don't know if you could agree with that or not, but that's what I get when I watch these shows.
For sure. I just always thought when it comes to, when you compare Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, obviously you can tell they were created by the same person. They feel like they're in the same universe, I guess, but where Beavis and Butthead are very in-your-face, violent, kind of horrible people.
It's very juvenile compared to King
very
of the Hill.
Juvenile. King of the Hill, even though it does have its juvenile characters, there are a bunch of them, but it feels a little more wholesome, even when they're covering, I guess, a more outlandish topic, because there are episodes that are crazy. I think about the episode where Bobby decides to become a model in a magazine, and it's really ridiculous, and how Hank hates it, and it's a serious subject about body shaming, I think, and things like being body positive, but they're able to kind of make it silly and a little ridiculous, but it's also warm and fuzzy, which Beavis and Butthead did not have that. Beavis and Butthead would almost die and kill each other and shit.
Straight up nonsense.
Yeah, beat the shit out of each other, talk shit about music videos. This show was kind of dry. Dry humor is how I would describe it, because everything kind of is very much mundane and boring, like you said. So I do agree with parts of what you said. I think that's a good way of describing it. And for me, and I'm going to ask you the same question. I've always loved the character of Hank Hill, But my favorite character on the show has to be hands down Bobby Hill, his son, because of just how...
He's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, he's like innocent and oblivious to shit, and he doesn't know anything. He's like a teenager who's not even... He's like a preteen, right? I think he's like 13 or 12.
Yeah, in this episode, I don't even think he's a teenager yet.
Well, it's an animated series. They never grow up. They stay the same age, right. I feel, forever. But yeah, he's so oblivious to stuff. He's so like gullible with things, and that's what I've always loved about the character, his innocence, and just kind of the scenarios. And this episode we're talking about is very much about Bobby. He's kind of the main driving force behind it. A lot of episodes of King of the Hill are. I also love Boomhauer just because of how ridiculous that character is. Boomhauer, you know who I'm talking about?
So I'll be very honest with you. I've never watched this show minus maybe a couple episodes here and there.
Okay.
It's a show that, I'm pretty late to the game on. I would really love to get into it, and I will. But I don't know characters' names. I really don't know anything except that Mike Judge is the creator.
Yeah.
So
Boomhauer's the guy that like mumbles that you can't understand a word he says.
I did love his character.
Yeah, and then Dale I like a lot too. That's the friend that always smokes.
But they're all likable.
They're all great. Yeah, his boys, Hank Hill's boys, like the four of them together, they're great.
Right.
But with that out of the way, our thoughts on the show. Let's jump into the King of the Hill episode, Hilloween.
Where are the vampires and monsters and ghosts? Elmo, Aladdin, Jenny McCarthy? I don't even know what these things are.
So King of the Hill, Hilloween, was released on October 26, 1997. It's the 16th episode of the series. It's weird. I believe this episode, it aired as a special during Halloween. That was kind of the point.
I like that.
Yeah, I think, because when you look at it, so I watched this on Hulu, and when you look at it, a lot of the episodes have gaps in between them, and this is one of them. So I'm guessing this was kind of just released on Fox.
Specifically for Halloween?
Specifically for Halloween.
Right.
It's also the only Halloween episode, and this show had a long-ass run.
Interesting.
I think it was on for more than 5 years. It was on for a while.
That's a shame. This was I really enjoyed this. That's a shame they didn't do another Halloween episode.
Yeah, this is, to my knowledge, as far as I know, because I did skim through, and off the top of my head, this is the only one I could think of that takes place on Halloween. I think they released one more episode around Halloween, but it isn't necessarily a Halloween like set on Halloween. So let's jump into the 5-minute breakdown. I'm going to make a promise to you, Dave, and to our listeners that going forward, I'm going to try to commit to keeping these actually 5-minute breakdowns of our episodes. I'm going to try to do it.
I think this will be pretty easy to break down.
This will be pretty easy, but going forward on the show, our format will be these 5-minute breakdowns. And I feel like I fell off a little bit, but they were not 5 minutes in our last few episodes, but I'm trying to.
I'm sure the listeners are okay with that.
I'm trying to keep it at 5 minutes, or close to 5 minutes. So in the episode, Hank and his boys, Dale, Bill, and Boomhauer, are building a haunted house for the local school. His niece, Luann, decides to attend a Bible study class. There she meets the leader of the group, Juni Harper, who's voiced by Sally Field. You know who Sally Field is, right?
Sure. Now, quick question. Is this character a reoccurring character on the show? Because, again, I don't know anything about this. So
no. To my knowledge, this is like Sally Field was the guest spot on this episode as Juni Harper. Like this was like a guest starring one-off character. So Juni Harper, she tells everyone at the meeting that Halloween is evil and for Satanists, for witches. Basically, don't celebrate it. It's a terrible holiday. Luann tries to persuade her family, Hank and Peggy and Bobby, that Halloween is for the devil and that they shouldn't be celebrating it. Now, Hank will have none of that because he has fond memories, like most of us, of the holiday, and he's looking forward to his haunted house. We learn that Luann is trying to convince Bobby, Hank's son, about how terrible Halloween is and trying to tell him to join Juni Harper's Bible group to I guess, what's the word when you're trying to like cleanse somebody? That's kind of what I took it as, like to get this evil doing out of you.
I think you said the right word, cleanse.
Yeah, cleanse, kind of like join this group.
Spiritual cleansing.
Yeah, your father's evil doings of his love for Halloween, this will help you.
Right.
We also learned that Juni Harper's Bible group has a haunted house alternative called the Hallelujah House, which I thought was great.
Those are real things.
I know, which is kind of crazy. It's basically like a church Bible group's like haunted house.
I would love to document one of those things. Just be on be hired for some fucking news publication to cover those things. I would love to do that. Yeah, so bizarre.
We should definitely look into it. That would make for a fun episode of our podcast if you and I go to one.
It absolutely would. And I'm not I'm not knocking religion either. Like, you're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. But those things specifically are very interesting to me, just because it's so forced down your throat.
Yeah,
and it's just
totally. Yeah, I agree. And we're gonna go into this whole hatred for Halloween religious thing a little later. So after some egging, TPing, canceling of Halloween, and a dead cat, Bobby agrees to visit the group on Halloween Day instead of trick-or-treating. In the end, Hank finds out and stomps down to the Hallelujah House. Hallelujah House. I said hallelujah. Hallelujah House.
That's okay.
Yelling trick-or-treat in protest. In his childhood devil costume, which I'll get into more later, with the rest of the townspeople, and even Luann, who has a change of heart. Bobby realizes he wants to celebrate Halloween with his dad, and the two walk down the road together, talking about candy and preparing to trick-or-treat. And that was King of the Hill, Hilloween.
Trick or treat! Trick or treat! Trick or treat! Trick or treat! Trick or treat!
Hey, man, check it out, man. I don't need no dang on costume, man. I'm gonna put on a bit dang on mine, man. Look, it's like I'm trying to get out of this box, man. See, whoa, then gonna play tug of war, man.
All right, Dave, so let's jump into some of our favorite things in this episode. And I'll go first. And some of these things might overlap because I have a feeling there's some stuff in this episode you probably liked like I did. I'm sure there's a lot of things we both liked about this episode.
I'm gonna tell you right off the bat.
Yeah.
I did not dislike anything in this episode.
There's one thing, and we'll get to that later,
okay,
that I didn't like.
Fair.
So the first thing I love about this episode is the opening. I love the idea of 4 grown-ass men building a haunted house for kids. Now, in this opening scene, you've got Bill wearing like a gory axe-in-the-head prop, sitting on his head. Then you've got Hank drawing like a chalk line around Dale, who's just sitting there like a dead body. You've got Boomhauer. Yeah, cigarette. Oh, he's always got a cigarette in his mouth.
And they outline the cigarette.
That's the best. Love. They have like a discussion about it looks like lips or something weird like that.
He said it looks like the body has its tongue sticking out.
Yes, that's what it is. And then you've also got Boomhauer wearing a noose, and like they hang him up on the wall or the ceiling. And I love how they're all drinking beers. And they even scare Peggy, Hank's wife, with this classic-looking green and purple witch, who, by the way, has a name. Do you know what it is?
Hagatha, and they should make a witch pin. They should make an enamel pin out of that.
That would be great. That'd be a great fucking pin. I'd totally rock that. But yeah, same. I just love the idea of just these 4 like adults hanging out, drinking beer. This is something I would do. Drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, I guess, if you smoke, and like bullshitting around a bunch of like Halloween props and building a haunted house, or building the props to take to where they're going to build this haunted house. I love that. And that just like, it reminds me more of like now, like being an adult and loving Halloween so much and seeing the adult side of the
Very
holiday.
good. Very good tie into growing up. Yes, 100%.
Exactly. And I love that. And then Hank's enthusiasm about building this haunted house. Like, he is so happy. Like, you could see how much he loves Halloween and just everything about it.
I have in my notes, Hank is the embodiment of Halloween.
Oh, I totally agree. That's a great way to describe him in this episode. Yep. Just the joy it brings him. Like, and then later on, when Bobby doesn't want to celebrate it, you could just see it like break Hank. He's not happy about it because of how much he loves it.
How dare you, Bobby?
Fucking Bobby. What's one of your first favorite things?
The opening. It's the very first thing I have. Anytime, all my favorites have stars next to it, and that's one of my favorite moments of this was the opening. Just 4 friends. I don't know how old they're supposed to be. Probably in their 40s, I would say, mid to late 40s. Yeah. Just hanging out in the garage, prepping to put on a fucking school haunted house. I loved it. There's just so much going on. Like you said, with the little fake gag with the axe in the head. Yeah. The one friend, what's his name again? The guy that was hanging.
Oh, Boomhauer.
Boomhauer, and he's like bumbling. He's like, "Yo, Dad's dead. Dad's dead. You're dead. You're dead." He's saying like these silly things, and just that. And I just love that it literally opens up with the chalk outline. Like you see it, and at first I'm like, "Oh, are they doing like a seance or something?" And then you see what they're doing, and I'm just like, "That's just such a good opening." And you get the gag with the witch, and again, you should make a pin out of that. I'm just saying, somebody out there, if someone's listening, make a Hagatha pin.
Honestly, they do a great job at making it feel like the holiday without shoving it down your throat. Like, there's not a lot of Halloween decorations in the garage,
there's none.
But them like prepping this haunted house gives off the vibes of it. And the episode in general, there's a lot of like shots where you see like the houses and stuff, and you see the leaves changing, and I think you see a pumpkin here and there. So just setting the tone for the rest of the episode, it's a perfect opening. What's something else that was your favorite about this episode? Your next favorite thing?
So jumping a little forward is the actual when they get to the gymnasium of the school and they're setting up for the haunted house, because that immediately reminded me of the haunted house we had in my elementary school.
Yes,
and
which I think you've mentioned on the show,
back.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It brought me back immediately, and I was just like, I got kind of like a little chill. I was like, oh, because that's what it looked like, and it just
that
it was
nostalgic
just so
chill.
and there's that one line where her name's Juni. Is that what her name is?
Yes.
Juni Harper is trying to get is saying to the principal, and the principal's saying to Hank and the guys, like, hey, this isn't happening here. And he goes to one of his friends, grab Hagatha. There's only room for one witch in here. And she's just like, yo, boo, roasted. But yeah, this was definitely my second, like, when I was writing everything down, this was my number 2, because this is just such a great moment, and I've lived this moment. So it was very satisfying to see it.
Yeah. When I was watching it and I saw that they were like building the haunted house in the gymnasium, I thought of you and I was like, Dave's gonna love this scene because of your story about your school having the haunted house set 100%, up. 100%. So that's really cool. That's that. As soon as I saw it, I was like, Dave's gonna love this scene, and I'm glad you mentioned it because it really piggybacks off of our first favorite thing with them in the garage. They work well together, those two scenes, and that's fucking awesome.
And if I could say one thing, I bet you whoever wrote this or probably had that experience is why this was written into the episode, because some people have never experienced that.
Yeah, I never have. I've never been to a school, and I think I said it in the episode where we talked about your school's haunted house. I never had a haunted house at school. I had Halloween parades, and I'm envious of that. I fucking wish. I wish my school had a haunted house. Even in high school, that would have been fucking awesome, but I had no luck with that, unfortunately.
And if there's one thing I can add to this memory, and I probably have said it before, but even in the hallways, like the different, so they would have a couple of classrooms open.
Yeah.
and each classroom had like a different thing going on. Like there was crafts, you could play games, there was a snack room. So like all the parents made brownies and fucking cookies and
sounds amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Again, envious, man. I wish my school did that shit. Never happened to me.
I'm sorry, my bud. At least you can live through me vicariously when I tell you this. When I tell you these things.
When I hear it on the show, every time we go back to you reliving the phenomenal haunted house at your old school. Another thing I love, that I have a huge list of shit here I love, but I'll bounce around a bit so we can talk about different things. And we've talked about your love for, kids causing mischief on Halloween, but I love Hank and Bobby going out to egg and TP Dale's house, but changing it to Juni Harper's house because she's not a good person in Hank's eyes. I just love...
She's not.
She's terrible. That's the whole point of this whole episode. And we'll get to her a little later. But Hank, like Bobby, is so innocent that he doesn't know about egging and TPing people's like tricks on Halloween. So I love how Hank has to show him how to properly throw an egg, properly throw toilet paper like over
Hank's
a tree.
embodiment of Halloween. That's why I said it.
And Bobby like tries to like toss a toilet paper or something like that and like misses. It doesn't even go over the branch. It's hilarious. And then another thing I love about the scene is initially it was supposed to be Dale's house, and they see Juni Harper's house. Like I think she sticks her head out. She's looking for her cat, which is a fucked up joke in this episode, and I'll get to that in a second. But Hank notices her, so they do the TPing and egging, and cops show up. And I love that Hank and Bobby run over, and Hank goes, ditch the evidence. And what do? They take the toilet paper and eggs and throw it at Dale's house anyway. And then I love how later on Dale tells like the town in like a community town hall meeting that it was a hate crime because the town hates him. It's so stupid. I love how they accidentally still vandalize or fuck with Dale's house. It's so funny. But yeah, just that whole scene. It's kind of sweet how Hank is like trying to show Bobby how to really play pranks on Halloween and cause mischief, and you see that side of the holiday and how important it was to Hank. And I could piggyback this into something else I loved about the show, which I'm sure you enjoyed as well, and that's the flashback.
Trick or treat.
Oh my, aren't you boys the scariest?
Yeah, man, talk about dang old boo, man.
You got any candy cigarettes?
No, but I have chocolate. Happy Halloween.
Only one.
What always makes me laugh about this flashback scene, and I've seen this episode countless times, is that they parody the Peanuts music.
Yep.
So I thought that was great, kind of a throwback to the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, like making fun of that being a Halloween, like a very notorious and famous Halloween special.
And it works.
And I love how they're fucking around with their own homes. So like, I don't know if you caught that. Like, so when they go trick-or-treating, they ring the bell, and the woman only gives them one piece of candy. And I think Dale or one of them is like, oh, do you got any candy cigarettes? But they only get one candy each. So they don't like that. So they TP and egg the house and destroy the mailbox. And the mailbox says Hill. So they were that was Hank's mom, and they were just you didn't pick up on that. It's great. It's a great joke because it's during a flashback, and it's during the I think Hank and Bobby and Peggy are in a store buying Halloween costumes for Bobby, and when it cuts back and you see that the mailbox they're destroying says Hill on it, it cuts back to Hank in present day, and he's like, I'm gonna go call my mom. I guess he felt guilty realizing he vandalized his own home because he's a stupid kid. So dumb. But
that
it's a great
scene in
great
general
scene.
though is great.
Oh,
like
it
the
is.
whole the way the Halloween night's portrayed, it looks like what I would want Halloween to look like.
Yeah. That's why I kind of wanted to add those two together because they both involve,
definitely
playing tricks on Halloween with egging and TPing and all that. And I know you're a big fan of Devil's Night, and we've talked about it on the show before, and just that aspect of Halloween. So because this episode really leans into that a lot when it comes to
the mischief part of it.
Yeah, the mischief
100%.
part a lot more so than the trick or treating. Honestly, they kind of just brush over trick or treating. But what's something else you loved about the episode?
So there's one line where what's Hank's wife's name? Peggy. Okay. So forgive me on these because, like I said, this is like really like the first or second time I've really sat down and watched an episode. There's she asked Luann what she's doing, and she's like, I'm going to deliver a hot meal to old people, then we're going to blow on them. I was like, how fucking cruel.
That is horrible.
That was really funny.
That is funny. I didn't even catch that. Like I catched it.
It's just a silly line that she said. I'm just like, what a dick.
That was kind of dickish. There is another line, now that you're talking about really funny lines, there's this one line where Luann rushes in after going to Juni Harper's like meeting for the first time, and she runs in and she sees Peggy and Hank in the kitchen, and she runs in and she says, Halloween was invented by Jewish people.
Right. Yep.
Jewish. And then Peggy like corrects her and she's like, Druids.
You mean druids.
Yes. Yeah. Because Luann's supposed to be bubbly. That's kind of the point. Or like in all the episode, that's kind of...
I picked up on that. She's kind of like a ditzy character.
She's very ditzy and bubbly, so they really play up that she's like Jewish people. I just thought that was fucking hysterical. Those are two good lines.
And speaking of one more line, I don't have the whole thing written down, but when Hank goes, they wrecked my haunted house, that line should be in a song or something.
Yeah.
When he gets up from sitting in front of the garage with his wife, and he's like, they wrecked my haunted house.
Yeah,
they did this, they did that, and then he goes up to go save Bobby. That was a good line, too.
Speaking of Hank, I am a big fan too of all the like satanic references. Speaking of like the Hank and the Satan and the evil shit that Luann keeps talking about. I just love that one scene where Bobby's thinking about Hank, and there's like a montage of him talking shit about the costumes, like all the pathetic costumes in the store. They had like Dalmatians and Aladdin. He's like, where's all the scary, evil costumes? But all he's noticing are like devil and evil and shit in the sentences. And then I just love how the montage ends with him forcing him to eat liver, like randomly. He's like, he goes, Dad did make me eat liver once, and he hates liver, and it's like all in like a scary like voice, and then he turns into a devil. Yep. I just love all the like the transitions between like Hank being this evil person just for loving Halloween. And on the subject of the evil, I also love that he's wearing his old devil costume from when he was a kid. Like, I love that he brings it back. And that's another great line when at the end when he goes out to like save Bobby from Juni Harper's group. He has this line. He puts on his old devil costume. He says, I knew the risk when I put on the uniform.
Yep. That was awesome.
Before he goes like stomping down the street yelling trick or treat with like everyone.
And everybody starts coming out of the house.
There is a funny gag too where Bob, his Hank's friend Bob, rushes out dressed as a ghost. And then he like trips over the cloth and it rips. And then he just yells, Toga! Because he was going like, boo.
Quick fix.
Quick fix. That was great.
There's one costume which I absolutely love where I think it's a woman that's wearing a motorcycle helmet. She's got a bloody and a bloody machete. I was like, that's great.
I was trying to figure out what that was. It's
maybe
like
Nail Gun Massacre. That's the only thing I could think of that had like a motorcycle helmet.
It's like a mechanic
I think Night
suit
School too.
It's like Night School. It's like a mechanic like suit like Michael Myers wear with like a machete with blood on it, and then she's wearing like you said, a motor, like all black. It's all black, right? Motorcycle helmet. Very odd.
In Nail Gun Massacre, yes.
Okay.
In this one, I think it's like a midriff shirt. I think it's like
really?
a belly shirt. The girl, yeah.
I missed that, but that is kind of random and weird. I was like, what a random.
I loved it.
Easter egg. I did too. I just loved how random it is. There's also like this one shot panning. Speaking of like the atmosphere of the episode, there's this one shot where it pans. And you see just one jack-o'-lantern, because there aren't many jack-o'-lanterns in this episode. You see one jack-o'-lantern sitting in a trash can as like the camera pans through the town, and you see all the houses and you see the trees. Very atmospheric. I love that one shot that it pans through. It feels like the autumn. It feels like Halloween. Now to jump into some negative, and I know you don't have any.
Well, actually, hold on. Before you do that.
Okay. Do you have something else you want to add?
There's a couple more things I'm going to add. They're very, very quick.
Go for it.
So, one of Hank's outfits during one part of the episode, fire. He's got a denim jacket on. He's got a white tee. And he's got the jeans on. I'm like, yo, Hank just needs to put like a Bad Brains pin on his jacket, and he's fucking set. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's great. Yo, Hank's the man.
And there's another scene when Hank is trying to get Bobby back from Juni Harper.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they must have messed up with the continuity. But there's one part where one of the guys in the background looks like Todd from Beavis and Butthead. And then they pan back to Bobby, then they pan back to Hank, and he's not there anymore. It's not Todd, but the guy looks like Todd. So that'd be fun if they like incorporated the Beavis and Butthead world into King of the Hill world. I'm just saying.
Maybe it was like an Easter egg. Like maybe they just plugged them in there for that one shot. Maybe they're trying to say like the Halloween Beavis and Butthead episode, which I talked about briefly a while back, and this episode of King of the Hill are connected. I don't know.
I mean, that would be incredible.
That would be incredible.
The last thing that I have written down in my notes that stuck out to me is the scene when Juni Harper and the sheriff or the cop are in Hank's living room, and they're talking about Bobby, and Bobby's like standing behind the bars that separate like the kitchen to the living room, and it looks like he's in jail because he's got his head down and he's all upset.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool little insinuation that they were trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like he was awaiting trial or something, or just like behind bars.
Kind of like cool he's just like depressed and waiting around. Yeah,
right,
guilty.
Exactly.
Like he knows he's doing something wrong, I guess is what they're trying to say there. But yeah, the negative now. I don't have much. My negative is very small because again, I love this episode. My only negative is that we never get to see Hank's Hell haunted house.
Good point.
We never get to see it. Like him and Peggy are like standing in front, like sitting in front of it on Halloween where no one's visiting them and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And there's a scene where Peggy's talking to Luann in the kitchen when she has like a change of heart and she's telling Peggy where Bobby is. And you see Peggy leave the kitchen and walk through the garage outside. But we never see the inside of it. Like,
yeah,
and I was like, fuck. Like, we see him setting up so much of it in the episode. I wish, like, the episode ended with them, like, going through it, because you see the Hallelujah house, which is hysterical, because you see all the, like, you see, like, don't have sex, you'll die, and blah, blah, blah. But we never get to see Hank's Hell. I love that it's Hank's Hell haunted house. I love that. That's a funny little gag.
You know what would be a fun project to do? To recreate what we would think Hank's haunted house would look like. Hank's Hell haunted house would look like.
That would be great. And it's teased. Like we know the witch is in there.
Right.
Hagatha. We know the gags he's trying to put together.
I think we should do this.
I think this calls for a future episode of the podcast where we
I definitely think this is yes.
in great detail.
We
figure out what's inside of Hank Hill's haunted house.
We're
Hank
reimagining
Hill's haunted house, reimagining what it is. But that's really my only con. I just wish we could have seen the inside of it. Yeah, it's kind of brushed over a bit because it's such an important aspect of the episode, and you keep hearing about it. You keep seeing him prep for it with his friends. Like him and his boys are getting it ready, but you never get to actually see it. I guess maybe that was the point. Was that you're not supposed to see it because you're seeing the Hallelujah haunted house?
Probably.
So,
but we still want to see it.
Now, Dave, I have one little piece of trivia before we give our closing thoughts on this episode.
Sure.
Now, there is a little bit of a connection to another very famous Halloween film in this episode. Do you know what it is?
Give me a hint. Give me a hint of the scene you're talking about or something.
It's not a scene. It's an actor that voices one of the characters, one of the main characters in this show. She's a main character from a very famous Halloween film involving witches.
Well, I did notice Brittany Murphy was one of the voice actors on the show.
That's not it, though. But yeah, Brittany Murphy, she's Luann. She's the voice of Luann.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Tell me. I don't know.
And this is trivia I made up myself, by the way. This was not... I just was like, oh.
That's okay.
It's a way to kind of connect Halloween. So Kathy, I always butcher her last name. Kathy Najimy,
Najimy,
a.k.a. Mary from Hocus Pocus.
Ooh, okay.
Voices Peggy Hill.
Love it.
Yeah, she's the voice of Peggy Hill. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, since this is a Halloween episode and she portrays that character in Hocus Pocus, I was like, oh, it's a good way of connecting Halloween and this and Hocus Pocus all together. So I just thought that's kind of cool. I always forget she's the voice of Peggy. Always. You know, like whenever I watch this.
Yeah, this is a very new show to me, so...
Yeah, and I definitely think you should watch more of it because it's really good. Now, Dave, I want to know your overall thoughts on this episode. Being that King of the Hill so new to you, I want to know how it made you feel. What'd you think of it?
Okay, so I'm gonna say it like this. I know I've mentioned in the past that I've met Mike Judge. I was probably about 11 or 12. I was in awe that I had just met the creator of Beavis and Butthead. I love Daria, and I love that they spun off of the same world. But I have never watched King of the Hill. It's just one of those things I've just never watched. And I think I may have seen 1 or 2 episodes prior, you know what I'm saying, before I watched this. And this just made me realize that I really do need to watch this show. So I did not watch this on Hulu. I watched this on Daily Motion or whatever the fuck it's called.
Okay.
I have a Hulu account. I'm definitely going to start watching this show. So I love it. I love Mike Judge's environments. I love how mundane they are. I love how malaise they are.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, yeah.
So I will absolutely... So 2 things. I would 100% add this to your Halloween queue.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely watch this during Halloween time. I'm a fan. This sold me.
So I love this episode, and revisiting it made me love it even more because it had been a while. But what I really, really love about it is the message about people shitting on Halloween and how it's evil. And we've talked about it on the show before, how there's groups out there, and there's nothing wrong with being religious, and this is not an anti-religion thing that I'm talking about, but just how there've been people that think Halloween's evil and terrible, when in reality, it's just fun for families, for kids. It's sure. Not the evil satanic bullshit people, think it is. And I just love the message the episode is giving about how Hank and Bobby, it brought them together. It didn't, he didn't become the devil or something, or, he's not evil. And that's what I love about it.
So there's something I want to piggyback onto what you just said. And it's a part when Hank is talking to Bobby and Juni, and he goes, I don't want to make my son, I don't want to give him, I want him to make this choice. I don't want to force him to make this choice. And I think that's them tastefully handling almost anything where you choose what you want to do. Like, if you want to be religious, be religious. If you want to practice Halloween and think it's got to do with the devil, you do that. They tastefully take care of that by saying, I don't want him to be forced to make a decision, which I really loved. I forgot to mention that, but I'm glad you said it now.
And the Juni Harper character is the opposite of Hank, where she's forcing anti-Halloween propaganda down Bobby and the rest of the group's throat, and really forcing them, look, guys, this shit's evil. Don't do this. Kind of using Halloween as a hostage almost, because she also talks about other shit that's evil that has nothing to do with Halloween. And I just love how Bobby kind of realizes, okay, this isn't this terrible thing, and he just wants to be with his dad and celebrate together. And that's fucking great. That's a great message, dude. I just love that, especially with us being, big advocates for the holiday and loving, and all our listeners, just loving the holiday and loving it so much that there's still, even to this day, dude, there's still a stigma. I still think there's groups of people out there that think Halloween is this evil, shitty thing. And in reality, dude, it's just fucking costumes, candy, and like
Yep.
horror is the norm for a month or two, in our case. But, like that's all it basically is. And people sometimes just kind of get a little crazy with Halloween. And I never understood the whole like anti-Halloween's the devil shit. I never got
I never
it.
paid attention to it.
Never got it.
It's just something I could care less.
But yeah, we recommend King of the Hill, Hilloween.
For sure.
Great episode.
Fine! Go on, all of you! More room in heaven for me!
We gotta get you home and scare you up a costume.
Okay. Hey, Dad, I was just kidding before. I care about candy. I care a lot.
Happy Halloween, everyone! Oh my God, no!
So that was King of the Hill, Hilloween. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Haunted Hangover, and be sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Haunted Hangover 31.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
More booze.
later, guys.